Salve discipuli. So we have to learn about women's hairstyles. Kind of a random thing to have to learn about, but it's actually kind of interesting, and you can learn something about the culture of Rome and the mentality of women in Rome and whatnot. So it was super important for them to always be fashionable. The fashions were changing as fast as they change today. Nothing has really changed in that regard. So, if you look at this picture, you see somebody with a mirror over here. A mirror wouldn't be quite as nice as ours are now. It would just be a piece of polished metal with a little border around it, like you see, and a handle. Um, Over here, you see a headdress, which we'll talk about a little bit later. You see a bun here. Maybe you can't make out that it's a bun, but it's a bun. You see curls. You see little waves. There's all kinds of stuff that the Romans could do that we can do with their hair that you might not have thought about. This is one of the most famous hairstyles in ancient Rome. It was the one that stood the test of time. Almost all time periods would be okay with this hairstyle in Rome. So there's actually a headdress under here, and this may have been some of her real hair, but it's also um, there could have been extensions as well. Romans had hair extensions just like we do. This was probably not all her braided hair, again with the extensions. Um, they would have curled this with a curling iron, and we'll talk about that more later as well. But don't think that they couldn't have the things we have just because they didn't have electricity. They could still make make metal hot, and if you can do that, you can have a curling iron. These the next few slides are kind of funny because they picked like the ugliest women in all of Rome. Um, so we're just going to demonstrate a couple things. So you may have seen everything puffed up in the front. I'm pretty sure they do that in Jersey now, but they did it this way back then. We've got more waves and teeny tiny little curls. There's the waves again. And we have braids. You can see braids throughout almost every hairstyle, even if they're kind of hidden. There may have been a braid even under this one, but you can't see it. Um, this is a more rare one where the hair is more down, but it's still really put together in really tight curls. So that's what the Romans were going for. These ones show different headdresses. I promised we talk about headdresses. There were anything you can imagine they would put on their head. So we've got a sort of a Little Mermaid kind of crown happening over here. We have a little crown with almost fake looking hair on it. And her hair is down in the back. Let's see, this one. This is probably not her own hair, or not all of it anyway. And then she has this little piece in the back. So that would be an accessory. To puff this up, the women would use a little headdress under there and just kind of cover it up with their own hair. And this whole thing for this top one, she has an Adam's apple, as does this one, by the way. I just noticed. Um, Whatever. This one is probably like hard materials, almost like plastic, but don't think plastic. More headdresses. You can add a veil. It can be really fancy and hold your bun. It could be sort of small, almost like a headband. It could just be this weird, like arch sort of shape. Um, so let's talk about hair color. The Romans had hair dye, just like we do, but a lot of authors have hinted that the fact that it may have been toxic. So anything for beauty, right? Um, so there was a desired hair color in ancient Rome, and if you could naturally have this hair color, you were special. So just think about maybe what Italians have for their hair now, nowadays. Um, you're probably thinking of a really dark brown, almost black colored hair, really thick for women's hair in Italy right now. Or you could think of the hair color we appreciate here. I don't know if there's just one. There's the timeless fight between blondes and brunettes in American society. But let's see, the next slide has the color, thanks to a few modern celebrities. It has the color that the Romans loved the most. It is a sort of strawberry blonde. So perhaps you weren't thinking that, but that is the favorite color of Roman women. And this is a really old picture of Jessica Simpson, you know, in case you didn't recognize the baby face. Oh, these pictures. They are pretty ugly as well. So in this one, I want to talk about shape. It could have been, most of the time their hair would be up, but this one is half up, half down. Roman women never would have gone out in public with their hair completely down. So never, ever, ever, never, ever, never. But there were probably curls or waves incorporated somewhere. She's got waves in the hair that's down and curls in the hair that's up. So that's what you're looking for shape. They're going for either wavy or curly or both. We have sort of twists or braids. These ones don't look like braids in this picture, but you could have done this hairstyle with braids just as easily. And the little ringlets here, so still a similar shape with the curls and a little bit hanging down here. But they wouldn't just leave this hair go. It wouldn't be natural, straight, or anything. It still had to be fancy to go out in public. Oh, this lovely woman. So it's wavy. This is a very basic hairstyle. This shape is what you would think of if you would think of a lower class woman. Not low class, but she's not rich. She probably did her own hair in the morning instead of having someone else do their hair, which we'll talk about in a second. And her hair is probably up with a cute little barrette in the back. So it might look better from the back than from the front. This poor woman. Okay. So an older style for someone that, an older woman, um, she's going to have her bun a little higher instead of having it flat on the back of her head. It's going to be more on the top of her head, but she's going to have braids and waves just like any other age group. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Uh, so she has a headdress and she has curls. They may be hers, they may be fake hair, but it's the same sort of thing we've been seeing. Oh, this is a really um, early Roman style with the big curls that they didn't do anything to. So, you know, nowadays, if you have a curling iron, maybe you brush through your really tight curls to have these nice loose curls. Um, yeah, she didn't do that. But chances are she actually did this with curlers instead of a curling iron, but who knows? Could have gone either way. So I promised we'd talk about people doing your hair. So we've got a slave back here right behind the rich woman. We have another slave here holding the mirror so the rich woman can see everything that the main hairstylist is doing. And this lovely slave here is bringing drinks and refreshments to the rich Roman woman, as well as possibly bringing accessories to the slave that's doing her hair. So in our stories in Ecce Romani, in our textbook, this is Aurelia here, and their their slaves are here, and maybe this is Cornelia just hanging out with her mom while she gets her hair done. This woman's not really doing anything. Kind of looks like her hair is already done. Notice the slave's hair. It's covered here. Her hair is probably down. The woman that's actually doing her hair is probably down under this veil. And the other woman here, it's wrapped up in ribbons and just sort of a comfortable hairstyle. And another picture of some hairstyles. Maybe you can't see them very well, but and don't mind that the women are naked. Romans, they're naked, so get over it. But this one, I wanted to show this hairstyle here of the woman closer to the front. She has blue ribbons in her hair, and the Romans loved to put ribbons in their hair. So they would accessorize any way they could. And these women clearly just had their hair done by the slave. But please do not think that Roman slaves were darker skinned. They generally were not. Slaves could be anyone from anywhere. So don't get that in your head sort of mixed up with American slavery. Accessories. You could have anything and everything. A barrette that sort of clips together. You could have these pins that were intricately designed and probably very expensive, made out of ivory or metal. These ones look more like metal. Um, this is a little box to hold your accessories. So everything was intricate and wonderful. So any accessories we have, they pretty much had as well. They wouldn't have had like the rubber hair ties that we do. They would have used ribbon instead, but it would still have the same effect. Here we have some more accessories and some tools. This one, this veil, or not veil, this hairnet thing, it's not for a lunch lady. It is actually most likely for a bride. Brides would wear a yellow hairnet. Um, it was bright and lively, we should get to weddings later on this year. This is a comb, a lot like our combs. It has tiny little bristles on one side and the larger ones on the other side. It depends on what you're doing to your hair. And that is it for now. But make sure you get the highlights and ask me any questions that you need to, either by email or if you're in a situation where I'm going to be in a couple minutes, you can ask me then. All right. Wallet